Hello, my friend. Welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. So glad you're here. My name is Gavin. This is my channel. We like to cut past sensationalism and fluff. We like to get right into the nitty-gritty of true crime. So if that is your thing, I'm glad you're here because it's going to work out between us. Hey, today we are talking about the case of Judge Kevin Mullins, who was shot to death by Sheriff Mickey Stines in his chambers. This happened down in Letcher County, Kentucky. Without further ado, not bearing the lead, I want to welcome to the channel. Welcome back, Elizabeth Jones from Hillbilly Crime. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. Okay, holy cow. Now, you have been busy over the last week or so, ever since I can't believe this never happens. The deposition transcripts in a federal lawsuit were uploaded to Pacer and were made public. So let's just do a very, very quick kind of rundown of this case. Okay, this is the video of Sheriff Mullins down in Letcher County, Kentucky. He is actually, there's no question who done it. Judge Mullins is dead. Sheriff Mickey Stines pulled the trigger. Elizabeth, you live in this area and you know these folks. I remember it being a real surprise to you that Mickey Stines did this, right? And it
Yeah.
all has to do, it's connected to a federal lawsuit that basically alleges that one of Mickey Stines' what am I saying? Deputies. I almost said bailiffs. His deputy.
Well, he was.
It's not even an allegation. This guy was convicted of SAing, like prisoners in the Letcher County Jail, inmates in the Letcher County Jail, 3 of them exactly, and that kind of spurred a federal lawsuit. I don't know that I have his picture
Well, he
here.
was actually only charged criminally with one. Then one passed away,
Yes.
and he was convicted on one. One another one passed away, but the civil lawsuit is filed on behalf of 3 women.
Gotcha. Okay. So Ned Pillersdorf is the attorney. I don't have his picture ready for some reason. I lost that button, but he filed this civil lawsuit. His clients are Sabrina Adkins and the late Jennifer Hill. But what Ned Pillersdorf said on my program and on others, that the Monday before Sheriff Stein shot Judge Mullins, he was having a deposition in his office and he was acting strangely. That was on a Monday, and then the following Thursday, which was September, what was it?
19th.
Yeah, thank you. Of 2024, he goes in and he shoots Judge Mullins dead. Okay, that was not all that brief. I'm sorry to blah, 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 but you have read this deposition. Give us the skinny.
I've read one of them. I've read Mickey's. They're very long. All of them are over 200 pages long. So Mickey's deposition was very surprising in a couple different points. So the first point that I will make is that it came out in the deposition that Mickey had sent Ben for a polygraph for one of these to be hired on with one of the jobs, and he went and took this polygraph, and apparently he's admitted to drinking alcohol on the job while he worked in the jail and having sexual relations while he was working at the jail.
These were
on the,
questions on the polygraph. Have you?
on the polygraph.
Oh,
These were the questions that Ned's co-counsel,
yeah.
because Ned wasn't actually in the deposition. I don't think it was his co-counsel
Yeah,
was
Ned said
there.
he had to leave. He was there in the beginning, but he left.
Okay. So it was the female, and she was asking Mickey these questions, and it came out that he admitted to these things in the polygraph.
Wait a minute. That
So
he admitted that he had done it, or that Ben Fields admitted he had done it?
Ben Fields took the polygraph.
Gotcha. Okay.
And in the polygraph, he admitted to drinking alcohol on the job while he had worked at the jail, and having sexual relations on the job while he was working in the jail. And he was still, I guess because he didn't lie about it and he admitted to it, the cover page of the polygraph went back to Mickey and said he was suitable for hire. And so when the lawyer was asking him about this, he said that he never opened it up and read any of the questions and the answers that were asked.
He had just seen the cover page?
He just went by the cover page. And I thought, man, what kind of a loophole is that?
Well, what job was he hiring him for at that point?
I'm thinking it was for the bailiff position,
Because
but
he was.
I'm not really sure.
What did Ben Fields do before he was a sheriff's deputy?
He worked in the jail.
He was a jailer. He was a corrections officer.
Him and his wife both worked there. His wife was a sergeant. And that was also the jail that he got to spend his 6-month sentence in.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh my goodness, this case. So the polygraph says, I wonder if he was taught. Okay, no, this is salacious. This is really. I just said I was gonna pass. I passed by the sensationalism and the fluff, but no, I want to dig into this for a second. Okay.
It's crazy.
Do you think he was talking about consensual relations in the jail, or do you think he was referring to the SA of the inmates?
I took it when I read it. I interpreted it as it was him and his wife.
Okay.
That's how I took it. But, it was over 200 pages and I was reading as fast as I could to get through it.
Oh my goodness.
But the way that I remember it, the way that I remember reading it, I interpreted it as it was him and his wife. But, and then later on
that is gross, man. There's nothing hot about that. Jails are gross. Jails are gross.
Well, and the fact that he was admitting to drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to transport prisoners. That's having contraband in a jail. What's to say, inmates didn't get a hold of that or something. There was a huge, big bust down at the jail a couple years ago because they were bringing in drugs. And
right.
So they ended up charging a ton of inmates. Well, that just makes questions. It makes more questions.
What's funny is, so that I'm on the crime beat for my local publication up here in Western Pennsylvania. And so I read not all of them, but most of the criminal complaints come around, pass over my desk. And I can't tell you how many times I have seen corrections officers with charges of bringing in contraband.
Mm-hmm.
There was one corrections officer that got felony charges for stealing from the vending machines at this particular prison. Like he would stick his arm up in the vending machines and not pay for it, or stuff like that. Like the jailers in these places are sometimes hired out of the very communities where the inmates all come from, like the hardest areas, and they are just as criminal as the people that they are guarding. And they're friendly with the people they're guarding too. And so if they've got somebody that they went to school with from like 4th grade on that is in the jail that they are supposedly guarding, they've got relationships with these people. They bring them drugs and do stuff like that. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. And if they're sleeping with them, you think they're not going to give them a drink?
Yeah.
Or something,
Yeah. And that is, that's a valid point. There is a lot of sex that goes on between jailers and jailed, right? Jailees. and there is such an imbalance of power there it's impossible to call that consensual. It
Yes.
is definitely SA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I so, it makes you wonder. Ned brought this up to me once, where he was just like, "We know of 3 women that Ben Fields SA'd. If there are 3, there are 4. There are probably 40."
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. And
goodness.
um, one of the other things that we found, or that I found really surprising, was how they had kind of set up the complaints. When you said that about the criminal complaints, it kind of reminded me of it. Um, so the lawyer asks him in this deposition how people are to file complaints, because Jennifer Hill's boyfriend, he says it's in the civil lawsuit. He
Yeah.
says that he called down to the sheriff's department to report Ben messing with his girlfriend,
Yes.
if I remember correct, he said they hung up on him, and so he ended up going down in person, and he tried to report it in person. And then whenever he left, he says he was pulled over like 4 different times
Yeah.
by other law enforcement officials that were saying things to him like, um, you're you've got everybody talking about this, right now. You better shut up.
Yeah. It wasn't even necessarily the sheriff's deputies or sheriff's office. It was like the city police. It was other
It's a
people.
mix of them.
Yeah.
It was a mixture. And so the lawyer asks him what their policy is, for people to come in and file a complaint. And Mickey says that basically he wants them to stay there and talk to him first. They have to talk to him first. And then once he talks to them, he tells them that they have to put it in writing. And it was kind of the way that I took it was they had to put it in writing, and it had to go through like the county attorney, and just they set it up in a way to where it was pretty impossible for anybody to even file a complaint.
Mm.
And one of the other things that really made me wonder was Mickey never wrote anything. Everything he said was verbal. It was all verbal. He had his assistant in the sheriff's department, a lady who's been there for since the last sheriff.
Okay.
Um, he said that she did all of his like dictation. Like he would tell her what to write on something, and she would write it for him. So it really started making me wonder how well how educated Mickey really
How
was, because
literate he is.
it
Yeah.
came out he didn't never go to the academy, so he's never had any academy training. He,
Oh, well, sheriff is an elected position. It's not.
yeah, but he's worked as a police officer. Well, he's worked in law enforcement for 20 years. So he kind of broke it down through the deposition. He said he got hired on with Neon uh, initially.
What is neon?
That's one of the little towns here in
Okay.
Letcher County. So he gets hired on for Neon City Police. He takes the fitness test, the pre-pops test. You have to take that before they can send you to the academy. He got laid off 7 months later, so they didn't send him. He said he drew unemployment for a while. He ended up getting on with the sheriff at the time, Steve Banks, and they put him road deputy and court security, if I remember correctly. And
Did they
then,
know he was untrained?
well, at that time, yeah, I don't know why he didn't go to the academy at that time, but he didn't. So
Okay.
then Danny Webb, the new sheriff, comes in. And he says, Danny asks him, do you want to stay in court security or do you want to go on the road? And he said he wanted to stay in court security. And so he didn't have to go to the academy as long as he wasn't on the road. So he said, okay, then we won't send you to the academy. I think it was later, after Mickey had already started, that they made it a requirement for court security officers to have like a 2 week training,
Okay.
academy. So he ended up being grandfathered in. So he didn't have to do that training because he had already been doing it for so long. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. And sheriff is an elected position when he was ultimately elected sheriff. It's really interesting though. I mean, I would want that training.
Well, it really shows you the lack of knowledge that he had. If when you do read the deposition, you'll see that he had absolutely zero knowledge about any kind of policies and procedures that a department is supposed to have, like
Yeah.
when it comes to sexual discrimination policies
Yeah.
or you know, anything like that. He really didn't have any concept of what to even do with any of it, you know?
Wow. So, I mean, so when we're talking about actually going back to the whole literacy thing, and this isn't like a one of the most successful people I know, who's a business owner who is extremely successful, employs, I don't know, a few dozen people. He does really well. He couldn't read till he was in his 20s, right? It just wasn't either a priority or was a difficulty for him. So when I say illiterate, I don't. It's no dig because people learn in
No,
different ways, right? It's totally cool.
absolutely.
However, if you are a sheriff, that is really an administrative job, right? That is something that you, as sheriff, you really aren't the boots on the ground guy doing all the work. You are the administrator. In a lot of ways, you are the glad hander, the politician. Is it just possible that Mickey was illiterate? And the reason that he didn't look through the polygraph, for example, is he couldn't really read it or understand it. Maybe that was the issue.
Well, he said several times that he stayed in the office a lot and pushed paperwork. You know, he did paperwork. So I'd say he had to have been able to read and write. You know, he graduated high school, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, and he said that he had a few hours of college credit, but not many. But it just really made me wonder. You know, there's a difference between, um, you know, being able to understand. I don't know, being educated on things, um, on how important policies and procedures are,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and experience, like practice and theory are two completely different things,
Sure.
you know, and you can't be all practice and no theory, and you can't be all theory and no practice.
Yeah.
It, you know,
What else? I mean, we're talking it's 196 pages. What else did you discover in that deposition that just kind of shocked you?
well, it was the vulgar language and the immature locker room banter back between Mickey and his male deputies.
Do you have
It
any
was,
idea how many deputies we're talking about?
well, in the deposition, it only mentions a couple.
Okay.
It mentions Ben and another one of his deputies because they used Facebook Messenger, and you know you can add more than one person into a group
Yeah.
chat, and so that's what they did a lot. They used those group chats, and so the ones that we saw in the deposition were just between the three.
What about like how many female employees? Are there any that he had an assistant that was female, right? Were there any other female employees?
Yeah, so you have the lady named Lashana. She's the one that's been there for a very long time, since the last sheriff. And then she apparently had an assistant.
Okay.
So you've got those two assistants, and then you had little girl named Lexi. She was a deputy. She actually was the one that they were going to make the canine handler when they got a canine. But then, whenever the dog came, Mickey took the dog.
Oh, that Mickey fell in love with the canine officer.
Well, he ended up being, the one to have the dog.
When you
So,
say little girl, you're talking about an adult grown woman, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
okay,
I'm almost 50 years old. She was in her early 20s. So
gotcha. Okay.
they're kids to me.
So when you talk about the vulgar language, they did that. It was just the guys.
Yeah, yeah. But
So that
it seems like it was a constant thing, though. Um, it was just. It seems like they're just friends. Mickey kept saying that was how they blew off steam, and that's how they picked on each other, and they just thought it was funny. But it was pictures of like a naked statue, and then they were memes, and so then they would take each other's faces and put their faces on these naked statue pictures and stuff like that, and send them back and forth to each other. There was a question that the lady asked him about a time that Ben was going to transport, or I think it was Ben, it was a couple of the deputies. They were going to transport someone, and they started messaging back and forth about their sexuality um, preferences and stuff. So they were demeaning them, you know.
okay,
It
yeah,
was
this
just
is a
very improper.
this
It's
is like
very,
locker room, high
yeah,
school kind of stuff.
no place for it in the sheriff's department.
Sure.
I've had a couple of comments that are like, "Oh, boys will be boys," yeah, this is just how men do. I can see this, but that should have, if it's locker room talk, it needs to stay in a locker room. It don't need to stay in our sheriff's department.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it would contribute to an atmosphere where somebody like Ben Fields would say to themselves, I can get away with what were horrific freaking crimes. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah. What Ned talked about in when he talked with me and also when he was on with Joel on Surviving the Survivor about how Mickey's demeanor was strange, or he I think he just said it was strange during the deposition. And he said that he did have to leave. He didn't stay for the entire deposition, but that with a law enforcement officer, he described them as usually confrontational, usually very uh, confident in who they are, very why question me, don't you dare question me kind of attitudes. But Mickey Stines was not like that. He said he was just off and he was just strange. Is there any indication? I know it's really hard in a transcript because you're not hearing voices and so forth, but are there any indications of him just being, I don't know, off or strange?
Well, I'll tell you what I got from it.
All right.
At one point in the deposition, Mickey um, says that one of the judges, our circuit court judge, who's over drug court, there
Mm-hmm.
it's his courtroom that has drug court, and his drug court supervisor came over to him. So the way that Mickey says he found out about the lawsuit was that a reporter called him and asked him about it.
Okay.
And that was how he found out the civil lawsuit had even been filed. He says later the judge and the court drug court director come over to the sheriff's office and tells him, "We're sorry. We knew about this and we didn't tell you."
Oh.
So it says in the I actually got it wrong when I was the night that I was reading it. The way that I read it, I was thinking that it was saying this person was an employee of the drug court who had come forward, but it wasn't. It was a participant. So apparently, this
Ah,
participant, see, they have rules in drug court. You can't fraternize.
right.
So, this boy and one of the girls were seeing each other, and they weren't supposed to be. And this boy apparently came forward and told about Ben and
To
what
the
Ben
circuit court judge.
to the drug court director and the judge. And I don't know if he told one or
Yeah, yeah.
what, but somehow I'm sure once the drug court guy knew, the judge knew, you
But
know.
this participant in drug court had learned about Ben Field's illegal and immoral and disgusting exploits through the girl that he was fraternizing with. Something like
I
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Something to that effect. I don't know because there was another girl that was mentioned in the deposition who I don't think is named in the lawsuit. But it said that Ben admitted to kissing her in the car in his car or something. So this was a different girl that
That
we are used to hearing about.
yeah, that might
And
be
so
the third that
I couldn't tell if it was him, this boy, and her, or if it was this boy. I also heard this boy lived with Sabrina at one point. So, and it's a small community, it's a small
right.
circle. When you're in drug court, you all spend a whole lot of time together.
Well, and also like if you take a small community and then take the section of that community that are all addicted, it becomes a very smaller community and they all interact with one another in some way, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be that they're jailed together, so it could be that they share the same dealer or one is a dealer and one is the customer, there's it becomes a much smaller community. There's a lot of cross-pollination, so to speak there, right?
Mhm. Or all the above.
Or all of the above. That's right.
But I
Um,
don't know. I don't know if they just didn't believe this boy, if they thought he was just trying to get out of trouble, and so they didn't believe him. But I don't. I just don't know why they wouldn't believe him because Ben was doing it.
yeah.
He was doing this.
Well, and apparently it was known. Like in the jail, it was known.
It
Uh,
was.
just you can trade the favor and you can get off your ankle monitor, and in fact, I
Yep.
think Sabrina, maybe it was Jennifer. I think it was Sabrina who said she had heard that this was a deal,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
she knew that
remember.
she couldn't afford it.
Hmm. And
So
remember, Ben's sister is over drug court.
yeah,
Right.
is she like the administrator?
I'm not really sure. So you've got his sister, who's supposed to be over drug court, but then you've got this boy, Robbie Kinser, who is also something in drug court. So I don't know,
Wow.
honestly.
So maybe
I don't
they
know
were
what their roles are, but that seems to be how it's played out.
that idea that he learned from a reporter rather than uh, actually being served completely rings true to me. There have been a couple times where,
Mhm.
again, I've been on the crime desk. I've noticed that there's a new case. I've ordered the criminal complaint. As soon as I get the criminal complaint, I read it, see what's going on, and then I call for comment, thinking, well, of course they know that this is going. I am a reporter. I'm going to be behind the eight ball on this. But when I call them, it's happened at least twice that I can think of on top of my head. And they're, what are you talking about? What I'm facing what, so that rings true to me because there is a certain once a complaint is filed, that is immediately displayed, at least in Pennsylvania, on what's called the UJS. But it
Mhm.
will take a process server 48 72 hours to get that served. So yeah, maybe he's telling the truth there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't have any reason to doubt that that's how he found out about the civil suit.
But
Um,
why in drug court wouldn't they have told him? Maybe it
well,
was
it makes you question: did they, because Ben's sister was
yeah.
over the drug court, did that keep him insulated from? having any kind of consequences. And another thing that I found very surprising was that none of them ever got reprimanded. Like, nobody ever got fired, nobody ever got suspended except for Ben. But nobody ever got in trouble for anything,
Well, Ben was caught red-handed. There was, I mean, he told them what he was doing. So
Well, every job that I've ever had, I had to abide by certain rules, or I'd lose my job.
of course, yeah.
Like, that's a common sense thing. But it seems to me like they just cover for each other. They're just buddies. They had a weekly poker party that they had at Mickey's house every week.
Who was invited to that?
Deputies, whoever.
Oh, it not
And
just necessarily sheriff's department employees, but these could be judges or
mhm,
drug court supervisors or whomever in working in the system.
yeah, it was their friends. That's what he kept
Yes.
saying. They're my friends. And so, one of the things that I kind of wondered, Mickey seems to be the odd man out. The rest of this circle of people are very educated. They're licensed.
Uh
They're all very professional, elite. They come from the right families. They've got the right last names. They're generational power and generational wealth. Um, Mickey wasn't.
Mickey came from a working blue collar family, I'm guessing.
Yeah. It came out in the deposition that he didn't even know who his father was. So, and he was raised by his grandmother, from what I've been told. And so, it just really kind of shows me that Mickey might have been a little bit out of his league with the rest of them. Um,
It makes you
and
wonder if that's the case and there is something going on. Again, we're talking about like groups within groups, cliques within cliques, right? I've wondered about the judge if he not only knew what was going on, but he was participating in what was going on. I mean, if you believe what Sabrina Atkins said, she said she saw a video. Now, of course, this video is not surfaced anywhere that I know of, but she said she saw a video of Judge Mullins in his chambers having sex with a woman, right? And I would imagine that was like somebody from the jail or somebody from the system or whatever. So if you believe that, I mean, is it possible that Mickey was on the outside? He didn't fit in.
it
And
is
maybe,
possible.
I mean, so what do you think on that? I mean, we're in speculationville here for sure, but I mean, if
Um,
something's coming out, could he have been, put in a frame for stuff that was going on there? I don't know. Or could he be set up as the fall guy or something? I mean,
well,
why did he
okay.
go in and shoot the judge? Why
Well,
did he do that?
so from what I heard from out of the Leslie County Jail where he's being held,
Yeah.
when he got there, he was absolutely terrified of the state police officers. We saw that video, we saw the dash cam,
He
we
thought he
saw
was being
how
driven
scary
into the
it was.
woods. Yeah.
He did. And from what I have heard out of the Leslie County Jail, they said that he was very, very afraid of the state police. Um, I don't know why, but that's where his fear was coming from at that time when he got there.
Specifically
Um,
the state police.
yeah, from what I was told, the jailer came out and to meet him in at the car, and he asked Mickey. From what I was told, the jailer asked Mickey. They saw how panicked he was and stuff, and he was like, "Do you want them to come in with you? To come into the jail with you? So will that make you feel better that we're not going to hurt you? Da da da." And they said that he was adamant. No, he did not want them to come in the jail with him. He wanted away from them. Now, I don't know, we don't know why, if it was um, a valid fear or not. We don't know. But I do want to say what his own lawyer said in the very last interview that I saw him give. He said when they asked him about the paranoid behavior that he was exhibiting, he said that he had every right to fear for his life that day, and that let's see, that um, he had every right to fear for his life, and that he was in a very unique and special position where he had knowledge of things that were going on by other people around him, and he was afraid that he was going to say the wrong thing, or that he already had said the wrong thing.
Mm.
Now, that interview came out a while back after that last court hearing that he had.
Yeah,
And
that was
when
on Law and Crime. Was that with Anjanette Levy or something like that?
no, I think it was just right outside the courtroom
Oh,
when
okay.
but I could be remembering that wrong. But with who they give the interview to.
Yeah.
Um, but so then whenever I read the deposition, something stuck out to me.
Okay.
Um, Daniel Dotson is a defense attorney in Whitesburg, and he's one of those in that circle.
Oh,
He's
okay.
he's one of the um,
He's one of the insiders, one of the old
he's one
guys.
of the head dogs in charge. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he shows up in this deposition as representing Mickey, so he was there. So Mickey had one lawyer that was there representing him in his sheriff capacity,
Okay.
and Daniel Dotson was there representing him in his personal capacity.
This is at his preliminary hearing?
No, at the deposition.
Oh. Okay. So, yeah, let me pull that up.
Yep, you'll see it. Honorable Daniel Dotson.
On behalf of the defendants, Honorable Daniel Dotson, Whitesburg, Kentucky. And via Zoom, Honorable Jason Williams.
Now, the other law, there was one lawyer there that represented Ben, and there was another lawyer there that represented the ankle monitor company, and then Sabrina was also there in on Zoom.
On Zoom. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So
Okay, so
now, when Mickey, what stuck out to me was during that deposition, he kept asking, "Can you repeat the question? I don't understand what you're asking me." Um, and then when it got to the part about Ben and here having the reporter call him, and then the judge coming with his drug court guy, and they had apologized to Mickey for not coming and telling him sooner about what Ben had been doing. Um, he gave a pretty detailed answer in at that section of the deposition, and then right after that, you don't get another answer out of him. I do not recall. I do not recall. I do not recall for the rest of the deposition.
Mickey was there in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And were his lawyers there as well?
I'm sure he was there in person. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay. So Jonathan Shaw, Daniel Dotson were there in person by Zoom. Jason Williams was there. So he had three lawyers actually on behalf
So,
of the defendants. Oh, but sorry, there are multiple defendants here, right? There's Ben Fields and there's Mickey Stein. So it's
mhm.
okay.
And
Um
it
so
looks it looked to me like, well, I can't say it looked to me. It makes me question. Could Mickey have started to get intimidated? Did he say too much about the judge?
yeah.
Did he say too much? Did that open them up to something? Um, it just seemed very odd
Does
that
he
after
mention Judge
that,
Mullins at all in this? Yeah, Judge Mullins is brought up 10 times in this.
not very much though. It's not, there's nothing in it that references Judge Mullins's sexual activity or anything like
Okay.
that. There's absolutely zero of that in
So
there.
I'm seeing him mentioned 10 times. I'm guessing it's probably because Mr. Fields was working in Judge Mullins' court. Is that kind of the thing? Is like,
Yeah, it was so long. I don't remember exactly what all Judge Mullins was mentioned
well,
about, to be honest with you.
so do you think when you talked about his now lawyers, I can't remember their names, the husband and wife duo,
Mm.
uh, talking about how he did have reason to be concerned, that he was afraid that he may have said something. Um, do you think it happened during the deposition? Do you think it was
Well,
that long answer?
it could have been. I mean, it's a possibility, you know. And he wasn't sleeping. That was something else. That was the other report that I got out of the jail, was that he had not slept in days. And they said he was absolutely exhausted.
When he got to Leslie County Jail?
Hmm. And, at first it made me wonder about, could somebody have slipped him something, or something like that. Now, I don't think that's what that was now, and we're supposed to change our minds as
Sure.
information comes out.
Sure.
We're supposed to allow information to, do its job.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. There's absolutely zero excuse for going in and being someone's judge, jury, and executioner. There's zero um, justification for that. What Mickey did was wrong. I'm not trying to make any excuses for Mickey whatsoever. Um,
But
I don't.
this is the case though, is he criminally responsible for what he did? This is not a who done it. He done it.
Mm-hmm.
But the question, at least the way it seems to be posed by, I don't know, in the conference that they had, the hearing that they had, is he responsible for doing it even though we know that he did do it? Is there enough, was there some outside force that was either acting on him or he believed it was acting on him that would make him do the deed, right? And Ned Pillersdorf called that, a time to kill
Extreme.
defense,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Kill defense.
The
Yep.
idea that it had to be done and therefore I'm doing it, kind of thing.
Mhm. Extreme emotional disturbance is what Mickey's lawyers have called it. And, I mean, I can see that. That's what I was saying. If Mickey wasn't as smart, I hate to use those words, but it's what it is. If Mickey wasn't as smart as the rest of them, and he didn't really understand the
Yeah.
way that a lot of these things work. Like, I don't think Mickey even understood the need for these policies and stuff. The lawyer asked him how he expected his deputies to have these policies or get these policies, whatever. And he said, I would give it to them and tell them that they needed to familiarize themselves with it. And that was it.
Familiarize themselves with what he was
Like if
telling
a new
them.
policy came out or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
He they had a handbook. They had a policy handbook that was created by the sheriff before Mickey.
Okay.
And so they ended up giving Ben a copy of this policy handbook in 2020 or sometime. And
Okay.
so he ended up receiving it a long time after he had started, and all they made him do was like initial it
I
and
wonder
date
if
it.
that handbook said don't force female inmates into sexual intercourse with you because you will take off their ankle monitor. I doubt there was a policy like that.
Well, there are policies for having any kind of relationships with people that are in your custody. That is
Sure.
forbidden.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I don't know if there's a policy that says no alcoholic beverages on the job, but it seems like that would be common
Yeah,
sense.
that does seem like something that you like. Okay, devil's advocate here, right? On TV, lawyers in big hotshot law firms wearing $5,000 suits, they pull out a scotch every once in a while and a cigar or whatever. But that is very different. Like there are places that I have worked where the big wigs drank. They'd have a nightcap. In fact, I worked for a company that was a big technology company that we had like a bar on campus, right? So, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about law enforcement. We're talking about law enforcement and corrections, like Department of Corrections. I don't think there's ever a time where it would be okay to reach down into a drawer and take a shot of something.
And
That
who
can't possibly be, right?
who is the state agency who's performing these polygraphs that would put a cover letter on the result, a report of somebody admitting to that, and say they're suitable for hire?
Yeah, that's
I just
odd.
He said she asked him some, I forget what question she asked him, but she asked him a question and he said, "Well, I've had them come back to say not suitable for hire." And I thought, sheesh, what do they have to do to be not suitable to be hired?
Yeah, they're suitable having sex on the job and drinking on the job. What was unsuitable? Lying about having sex on the job and
Right.
lying about drinking on the job. That's probably what it was.
That is my point on the loophole. What kind of a loophole is that? You
Yeah,
think
that's messed up.
somebody didn't tell him before he went down there? Just don't lie about it. Somebody's told him that. He didn't know to go down there and fess up to that,
Yeah.
to get a job for a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody's told him
You
that.
know what's funny though? In the conversations, the interviews, the one interview that we have has the AG's office detective talking to Ben Fields, and he is telling him stuff like, "Hey, buddy, it'll feel better to just kind of let it out. Just tell me the truth, buddy." And Ben Fields full on was like, "Yep, I was doing it." Oh, and he full on just came out, and it makes me wonder if Ben Fields has two brain cells to rub together. You work in law enforcement and an investigator comes to talk to you and you don't lawyer up, you are an idiot.
What if that is a strategy here? What if he had to? Because if he didn't take, there were so many lawyers. You see, Daniel Dotson went to this deposition with Mickey. You think
Yeah.
one of these lawyers didn't tell him, shut your mouth?
Yeah.
They have been around his wife. Ben's wife lawyered up. She didn't talk. She said, I want my attorney. So he knew. He knew better. Nobody can convince me otherwise.
Ben
But
knew better.
yeah, he knew better. He knew better. But so if they all knew that this was coming, because they obviously did, and something that I found to be um, kind of surprising was all through this deposition, it talks about how Edison Banks, our Commonwealth attorney, says that he contacted the attorney general, the jailer, and the county attorney, and all these people were, you know, they were gonna. Oh. This other really important thing.
Okay.
Mickey, when he found out about this, he sent his stuff to the state police for the state police to come in and investigate Ben. The state police declined to investigate Ben and what was being alleged because they said that they worked too closely with them. So they declined to investigate Ben's bad conduct
All you have
and
to do is
crimes.
send that to
But
another barracks.
they're the same. If they were so too close to him to investigate Ben, why the hell are they investigating Mickey shooting Kevin?
Yeah.
That seems like a very big issue to me. It
No,
doesn't
that
make no
no,
sense.
it you're right, it doesn't make sense. And this is the thing, and I say this all the time, like anybody in police is in the suspicion business. That's their business, suspicion. So if a sheriff comes to the police and says, "I'm suspicious of my deputy having like basically SAing women under his care," like the natural reaction for any cop is to go, "Oh, I want to look at that." Every time. And if they say, "No, no, no, we're too close to this," you just go to the next barracks over. You just send it to the next barracks over because you are in the suspicion business. You're going to hand that suspicion over off to the guy who you think doesn't have some sort of conflict of interest. But I have never heard of any conflict of interest of a law enforcement office or agency to say, "No, we're not going to do something because there's a conflict." That no, that just stinks. I can smell that from Pennsylvania. That is bad.
Absolutely. And tell me if you remember this the same way that I do, because I know you listen to those AG interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember in those interviews it the way that that investigation was started? It was one of those. It was the female lawyer that works with. I don't know if they work if they're work in the same law office with Ned or not, but it was a female lawyer who sent the referral to the Kentucky Attorney General's office, asking them to investigate this.
Well, Ned specifically said that his office referred it to the
Right,
AGs.
right,
So
right.
those interviews, what was his name? Matt Easter, right?
Matt Easter. But in those interviews, Matt Easter was the one in the report, in his final report for this entire investigation, it says repeatedly that he contacted Edison Banks. He contacted Bert, and they told him he needed to go talk to this one. And then he contacted this one, and they said that maybe this person has some information for you. You need to go talk to them. And it seemed like every time he went to talk to one of these people that the person before him had sent him to, they weren't saying anything. Like they weren't actually giving him any new information of anything. But
Yeah.
in this deposition, it comes across completely different. Mickey's saying that that Edison Banks contacted, or that they all contacted the Attorney General to investigate Ben. That when the state police declined to investigate Ben, then it kicked it up to the Attorney General's. Then they all started contacting the Attorney General's office,
Yeah, I don't
and
think that's how it happened.
I don't think that's how it happened either. That's not what we heard in the
Well,
Attorney
there were
General's
two
report.
there were basically two groups of victims here. Of the three that we know about, there was Sabrina and Jennifer that were represented by Mr. Pillersdorf, and then there was a third unnamed represented by somebody else.
Yep.
It feels to me like that other person is the one that kind of kicked up toward the AG's office, because by the time Easter was interviewing Sabrina Atkins and Jennifer Hill, these were proffers. These were in the presence of their civil rights attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like, I mean, that happened. They were the second wave, is what it feels like to me.
Mm-hmm.
We ought to ask Ned about that. See how that
Well,
happened.
whenever you do get to read through that, remember I asked you that,
Okay.
because it just looks to me like it's a glaring contradiction. In the AG's interviews, it looks like Nobody from Whitesburg was calling the Attorney General's office asking them to come and investigate Ben Fields because they thought they had a dirty deputy on their hands. I didn't see anything like that said in the Attorney General's report, an investigation.
No, I think the investigation that ended in a successful criminal prosecution of Ben Fields started as a civil matter. Like,
Yes.
I think it was Ned I think it was first the other attorney. And they may have reached out to the district attorney or county attorney, however it is. They may have done that. And maybe they just were not taken seriously, and so they had to go to the AG.
Well, this deposit, the way that I, the impression that I got when I read that deposition was like they were trying to take credit for, you know, calling the Attorney General's office
Mm,
and stuff. And that ain't how I remembered.
yeah, I don't think that's how it happened. No, not at all. Let's see what people are asking over here. Give me just a second. Let me bring up. You guys remember, put GF in your comment. There is a lot of conversation happening over here. There's over 500 comments happening here, but I think that they're mostly talking amongst themselves.
Hey, listen, my hillbilly family said to tell you they all said hello.
Oh, excellent. By the way, guys, yes, Elizabeth is from Hillbilly Crime. She is linked in the description, I think in the title. Please go and subscribe, check her out. Okay, so here's one. Carrie Sullivan, Gavin, has anyone ever asked how many women were in the jail while this deputy bailiff was employed? Yeah, how many beds are in that jail?
Well, there's a lot because remember one of the things that Ned always talks about is how many women now are
Yeah,
being charged with all these crimes and going to jail.
yes.
There's a lot of women in there.
Yeah. To answer your question a little more specifically, well, no, it's more generally, Carrie. Um, it's very difficult to know the actual answer of how many individuals spend any time in a jail over a given year because it is a revolving door. They're in and out and in and out for a lot of different reasons. When in my town or in my county, which Elizabeth and I have talked about, are very similar. We're just on the northern edge of Appalachia, and it's very similar in the way the issues that we have up there. There are like 90 female beds in the jail, but in a given year, there's like 1,400 female inmates, individuals. So, I mean, the real question is how many of them were getting out on ankle monitors? That's the question that we should be asking.
That was another thing that came out in the deposition was how they get paid for that. They were paid on commission, and another part that let me say was very shocking was Mickey when she was asking him about when he was working the ankle monitors himself because he used
Yeah,
to do that job before
right.
Ben did. He said that they didn't even have a bank account. The
How
ankle monitor company didn't even have a bank account. He was getting paid. They get paid commission, and he said they get paid $3 a day per person who's on house arrest, plus a $25 hookup. When he hooks them up, he gets $25 for
but
each new
if he
hookup.
doesn't have a bank account, where does that go?
Well, that's what. So he had to take cash. It was an all cash business.
No way.
So they were taking cash
From the
right
girls.
from the girls, the boys, whoever was on house
Yes.
arrest. And when Mickey was doing it, he said that he had to like send them the money. I mean, I don't even remember how he said he got them the money, but he said back when he did it, they didn't even have a bank account. So
Okay, so no,
and they would pay him once a month at the end of the month. He would get and that's a commission job. So the more people you put on house arrest, the more money you're going to
there's an
make.
incentive there. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. And if there's no bank account and it's a cash business,
I
are,
would bet I would bet that that company isn't even. I bet they're not even tracking how many are active. Like it's probably pretty easy to launder the activity, not just the money, but the activity there.
Well, they made over 30,000 a year. Just that's what the lawyer asked Mickey. Said that Ben had he had made over 30,000 a year at one year, and they asked him if that was about regular, and he said, well, it would go up and down, but some years it would be over that. Well, and he
So
was working three jobs. He was
try,
work. They
trying
also
to
had
get
a
my
policy.
calculator to show up. Where's my calculator? I want my
They
calculator.
al- they also had a policy at the sheriff's department about um, extra employment. Like if you already work for the sheriff's department, so
Yeah.
you needed to get permission to work somewhere else, and how they did extra duty. Well, it was a policy of the sheriff's department that if they were working outside jobs, like a security job at a ball game or something, any job like that, these places were supposed to pay the sheriff's department, and then the sheriff's department would pay the deputy. They
Okay.
didn't follow that. Not ever. They never followed that. They asked Mickey how they did it and how they paid them, and he said they just paid us, straight. So there was just a lot of policies that were in place that I
But
don't even
not
think they knew about.
not followed. Now, real quick, let me go back to this $25 hookup
Oh yeah,
and then $3 a week. Is that what it was?
it was $3 a day per person on
That was the
house.
commission.
$3 a day per person plus a $25 hookup fee when he put them on.
Okay, I wonder how long these people would be on ankle monitors. 90 days, 120 days?
Some of them longer than that.
Let's say
Um,
120. So that's 360. And I'm just going to try to figure this out plus 25. Let's just say the average is 120 days. So that's 30,000 divided by 385. So that is 78 inmates in a year. So twice a
uh,
week. It's got to be more than that, right?
it's a lot more than that. A lot more than that. So if you did the math, that's a really good point. I'm glad you did that there, Gavin, because that's exactly how white collar crime works. That's a perfect example of you know how they could have been making a whole lot more than that, and that was just all they were
Yeah.
declaring.
Yeah.
If it's in cash, now that Ben was working at the ankle monitor company, I don't know if they have a bank account. I'm sure they probably would by now,
There's got to
because
be.
Mickey was talking about when he was there, but that's not been very many years ago.
Right. What was it? 10 years ago or something like that? Or less?
No, he just became sheriff in 2019, or 2018 was the election was November of 2018. So
So
he
January
came in
2019.
2019.
Yeah. Okay. So 5, 6 years ago, let's call it. Yeah, dang it, man. No, that was a lot of cash that was going through. And talk about an easy way. If I mean, how does he certify to the court that this inmate does indeed have an ankle monitor on? I think he just tells Pam she has an ankle monitor. I don't think that there's like
Well,
a check.
you know the judge that Ben swore the escape warrant out
Yes.
for, and
Yeah.
that judge kept asking him about this person because she had a somebody said that she had came and done something while she was supposed to be at home on the ankle monitor, and Judge Kraft told Ben to go look and see if she was outside of her area,
Right.
and he was like, oh well, she ain't got one on, how am I going to do that, so he ended up going and filing an escape warrant on her, and that was why he was charged with perjury. was
Yes.
because of that warrant.
Wow.
But that's the same judge who went over there and apologized to Mickey that he
Oh,
knew
come on.
this
Really?
information and didn't tell him.
Oh, my goodness. Richard Boyd says Gavin recently had experience with monitoring services in Boone County, Kentucky. Contract employees, as of 18 months ago, home arrest cost $79 per week. Had to be money orders sent by mail. Well, at least there would be a paper trail then. Joanna says my nephew was on house arrest, had to pay $80 a week, and Ben Fields did this. So we've got some locals chiming in. Nuna needs a nap, says Gavin. I bet they made way more than 30,000. I think you're right. I mean, my math on the average 4 months on house arrest was only 78 people.
And they put a ton on house arrest. If they're not on house arrest, they're sending them to rehab. And then ARC's getting $30,000 a month per person for an in-house treatment stay. And it's just, there's so much of this that is related to each other that it's hard to say, no, this ain't got nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward. This is horrible. I'm looking forward to like the trial. I want to know.
I'm too.
Yeah. June Johnson says I have to read the deposition in my best Kentucky voice. I don't have a good Kentucky voice. I just don't.
Well, listen, if you want to do it, I'll read one of the parts for you.
Well,
I wish I had done that.
That's funny. That is funny. Well, we've been at it for a little over an hour. Thanks for coming back on, Elizabeth. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
We
keep fighting the
enjoyed
good fight down there. And by the way, guys, Elizabeth is branching out. You're not just covering this one; you're covering lots of cases. Yeah. So if you like her Southern style, and of course her mom is like about the most delightful woman ever. It's pretty fun to watch your channel. So you guys go check out Hillbilly Crime. Bring that up one more time. It's just here on YouTube. There's a link down in the description below. Anything else you want to like closing thoughts before we call it a night?
Well, just I'm looking forward to it too. There's more information that's coming out. I'm looking forward to reading these other depositions. So we're going to start tomorrow night at 7 p.m. on my channel. We're going to start reading Ben's deposition.
Okay. So guys, just so you know, there are 3 depositions that have come out. I haven't checked recently. Maybe I should check if there are any others that came out. But so far we have Mickey Stines, we have Ben Fields, and we have Sabrina Adkins. These are all their testimony under oath. So there's a lot to go over, and you do these long form, right? You're at it like 3, 4, 5 hours on this.
We broke Mickey's up into 2 shows. It was about 5 hours altogether. So
yeah,
we're reading them all.
I think I like this format of you being the most informed, and you just get to tell me about it. It makes it a little bit. Now, I was telling you before we go on the air. This week is just. I've been wanting to read this, but this week has just been too much. We've got a local murder trial of a 2-year-old little boy that has been happening this week. I've been in the court or writing my report or on YouTube all week long. It's been a pretty jam-packed week, so I'm really glad that you were able to come on and talk about this because I haven't had the chance yet to read it. So thanks for coming. All right, stick around, will you? And while I do the outro, hey guys, real quick, let me just talk about what is coming up. If you go over to my channel, you will see that tomorrow we're going to be circling around back to Donald Adelson. So that'll be tomorrow night at 7:30. Going to be talking about her claims that she's been attacked in jail, that she's got teeny tiny ear canals and she needs to be out of jail because of those ear canals. It's ridiculous. So check that out. check me out on my website, gavinfish.com. That is always linked down below. While you're there, click on this little fishy. That'll bring you over to the fish tank. Also, click on CrimeCon, sign up for our newsletter that I swear one of these days I'm going to start sending out every day. Right now, it's just kind of as it comes. With that, I will bid you adieu, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.